Hey you guys, so I'm here to give you a video about some things that you may be surprised to find out about living in mold. And specifically, if you live in California and you want to tune into this video. I'm going to start by telling my story about what happened with my mold exposure and my mold experience. And I'm sure some of you guys can relate to this, so you can learn from some of my mistakes, and maybe you can learn from some of the things that I did that you didn't think about. I will start by saying that I rented a duplex for almost 10 years. Now this is a 1940s duplex that needs lots of updates that have not been updated. I've always had issues with the pipes. There's no ventilation in the place. There is no fan vents in the bathroom. So humidity has been a really big issue in that home. No matter how much you leave windows open, it doesn't matter. The place would still get mold. The mold was usually in the bathroom and it would get cleaned off and it would always come back. So that was just something that I had always dealt with. Now, for about maybe 6 of those years that I lived in that home, I dealt with a lot of chronic illness. Just to give you a brief rundown, I dealt with symptoms like fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, food allergies, migraines, anxiety, depression. Last year, I started getting progressively more sick, and my symptoms were increasing to the point where I was having less and less energy to be able to work, and I was struggling with just survival tasks. I started noticing the mold in my bathroom had gotten progressively worse. I mean, probably triple the amount of mold that there normally would be in that bathroom. I told my health providers about this, and they said that they thought that there was a good chance that my symptoms were linked to mold. I went in to try to clean the mold off of my walls in my bathroom. Now I looked up what to use because I did not want to make it worse. And I read that you definitely don't want to use bleach on your walls because bleach makes the walls more porous and it leaves a surface that attracts more mold. So likely the mold will come back more amplified and it doesn't completely take care of the problem. So what I did is I did a mixture of baking soda and apple cider vinegar. And I put a little bit of dish soap in there. I mixed it together and I got a scrub brush and I was scrubbing it off my walls. Well, that was my first mistake because what I was doing is I was stirring up the mold spores, putting them into the air. They were going straight up my nose, and I started getting hit with severe mold toxicity symptoms. My symptoms were mostly neurological, so I was getting headaches, I was getting vertigo, my sinuses completely closed, I couldn't breathe, so I was having neurological symptoms and allergy symptoms. Right then I knew that this had gotten very serious, and so I needed to let my landlord know. Now I go through a property management company and I let them know about the mold. I sent pictures of the mold. They came out and did an inspection, treated it like it was no big deal. Oh yeah, these old houses get mold. You just scrub it off and paint over it and then it's fine. Well, I had done a lot of research and I knew the only way to get rid of mold is from the source. And likely, if mold has been there for a while and it's continuously coming back, there is a high chance that there is mold behind the walls and the inside of the walls. And the only way to get rid of the mold is to cut it out of the walls. Because if you don't cut it out of the walls, whatever's behind the walls will keep coming through. And therefore, if you have mold toxicity symptoms, you will keep getting flare up after flare up after flare up, which will cause more serious issues down the line. Our bodies can only take so much toxicity before we hit our toxicity overload, and our body can no longer naturally detox on its own. So that's when you start getting autoimmune issues, you start getting things like cancer and even dementia. My landlord told me straight up, we cannot afford to remediate this property. And I said, well, I'm gonna need a place to live. Can you provide me with a place to live that is safe and without mold? And he told me that he would talk to his wife and get back to me. He got back to me on Valentine's Day with a 60-day notice. So he was not willing to do anything to protect my health and provide me with a place to live. I don't know about your state, but in California, that is illegal. You need to provide a habitable place to live, and having toxic mold in the place that continuously comes back and is at the point that is causing health issues to your tenant is not following the law. There is also updates that you need to do on the place to keep the place up to code. And there was several updates that were not done to the place that played a huge role in the reason why this mold was continuously coming back. My next step that I did is I contacted a mediation company that was going to be reaching out to the landlord and providing documentations of everything along the way that I was doing on my end to protect myself. I immediately got out of my home because I could not tolerate being in the mold. So the first couple nights I slept in my car. I house hopped and slept at different family members' houses. The mediation company let the owner know that I did not have a place to live, and they advised me to get a doctor's note and to get a mold test to prove the mold in my body. So the next thing that I did is I was able to look over my blood work and evaluate what are the symptoms that are linked to mold. I got a doctor's note. I got a mold test. It was a mycotoxin urine test. That urine test told me the types of mold that was in my body and the amount that was in my body. The test came back with every single type of mold that there is inside of my body at the maximum level. The nurse that I talked to told me that my case was so severe that it was at the point where it was now affecting my organs. If you have mold in your home, you need to get out immediately. Immediately. Don't sit and wait for it to build and build and build until you start having health issues that heavily affect your life and your livelihood. If the landlord chooses to not do anything about it, you need to have enough strength to be able to work to provide yourself with another home. Don't expect that because there's mold that automatically you will be taken care of by your state, by your county, by your landlord, a nonprofit. There is not always help for you, especially if you are a U.S. citizen and especially if you don't have kids. I talk to a legal assistance. I talk to the city, and everything falls back on the landlord. So if the landlord chooses to not follow the law, in California at least, this is not something that they enforce. So everything is in the favor of the landlord, and the tenant is left in a situation where their health is damaged and they do not have a place to live. So as a tenant, you have to be your own advocate. Don't expect someone to save you and rescue you, because they will not. Our system is very flawed. So at the first sign of mold, you want to be proactive. You provide your own self with a safe place to live. And if your landlord will not work with you, you need to get out. Everyone says, contact the health department. Well, I did contact the health department. They came out, did an inspection, wrote up a citation instructing the landlord to remediate the mold from its source after doing a mold test. Now, the landlord can choose to not follow that every single day, where they get a fine every single day after a certain date that they do not complete the mediation. It has been past the date that they were supposed to work on my home and nothing has been done. Just because you contact the health department does not mean that your city is going to enforce things. So keep that in mind. I have recently reached out to the senator of my area in California, and I am waiting on a call back. The only thing left that I can do is work with an attorney. And in the end, that's all you have. So hopefully you're able to find an attorney that is experienced with mold toxicity and landlord-tenant issues, because if they don't know anything about mold toxicity, they're not going to be the best to work with because they probably won't take it as seriously as it needs to be taken. Most people don't understand the severity of what mold toxicity can do to your body, and they don't understand the things that are serious illnesses that are actually linked to mold being the root cause. While I was going through this process, so many people were telling me, oh, you can sue them. Oh, you can report them to the health department. Oh, you can contact this legal assistance. You can contact the state. You can do this and do that, and they have to do something because this is illegal. Well, everybody has been misinformed. Everybody has the idea. All these programs will come to your rescue because this is against the law. Well, if no one is enforcing the law, then there's no help for you. So I'm sorry to sound like a Debbie Downer with all of this information that I'm giving you, but I want to give you a realistic picture of what you're dealing with when you have mold in your home, specifically if you live in California. I'm out of my place. I am no longer living in mold, but I am rebuilding right now. I am rebuilding my life because when you are dealing with mold, you lose a lot of items in your home because you do not want to bring them with you when they've been exposed to mold. Somebody said this recently in a mold group that I was in. They said that when you're dealing with mold toxicity, it's a lot like dealing with a cancer and a house fire at the same time. Your body is dealing with an invader that causes so much havoc, and you also are losing everything around you. Often you get too sick to be able to work, so you're losing your livelihood, your income. That causes you to lose your place. The mold causes you to lose your furniture, your items, maybe some of your clothing, maybe some of your keepsakes. Now, I do believe wholeheartedly that God is going to restore my body. And I have faith in that, and so I have to hold on to that truth. But in the meantime, I am also going to be detoxing my body and taking supplements to support the damage that has been caused by this mold toxicity. The Bible talks about the seriousness of mold. It says that it's like a leprosy, and it says the only way to rid the mold from your home completely is to cut it out of the walls. And if the mold comes back, then it says to destroy the building. I hope you found this video helpful. I debated on making this video because I just hate always bringing these negative messages. But if this can help someone that maybe isn't quite educated on the process of dealing with mold in your home, then it's worth it for me, because I don't want anybody to go through what I went through in my home dealing with this mold, not being educated, and now having to undo the damage that's been done. And if you live in California, for you to be aware of the steps to take and to not be relying on these programs to save you, and to make sure that you're proactive very early on. If you want me to document my detox journey, let me know in the comments, and I will come back with another video update. Thanks you guys for watching.